Excuse me, sir. Sir.
Resident Evil Zero is a prequel to the mainline series, taking place before the events of the Spencer Mansion in the original Resident Evil, and is the last game to use the fixed camera perspective. Atmosphere. First off, visually, this game is a treat. Every background in this game is oozing life, death, and abandonment, the training facility being a highlight. They're gorgeous and help realize the locations of the game. There's some great lighting, coupled with dark, moody music and sparse sound effects and the ever-present door-loading animations, and the atmosphere is sufficiently built. Everything feels decrepit and deserted, untouched for years in some sort of time bubble. It's not overwhelming, but a vague sense of unease is present throughout the entire game. It's a bit disappointing that the two-player protagonist gimmick removes any fear of isolation, and it's easy to just wander around as a team and gun everything down. Still, I'm going to give it the point. That's 1 Harry Mason. Scares. Resident Evil games are built on tension and fear of surprise enemies. I ended up using the alternate controls in the PlayStation 3 version of the game, which allows the player to easily move away from threats, and the two-player combat means that those threats tend to go down pretty quickly, with 2 people shooting at them. I only died once during my playthrough of the game, and that was when I was tasked with saving Rebecca and couldn't find her before the time ran out. It felt like I didn't bump into enemies that often, and there weren't really any jump scares from what I remember either. The enemies were all pretty lackluster, with traditional zombies barely being a threat at all. Most of them felt generic, and the only thing that really felt like a threat was the leech zombies, the hunters, and obviously the bosses, with the tyrant prototype being the most menacing and fearsome recurring enemy. Ultimately, it squandered the atmosphere it built, and I didn't really feel like it was trying to scare me. Everything felt really relaxed, and that's not really what I want to feel in a Resident Evil game. So that's still 1 Harry Mason. Sound design. This game probably has some of my favourite pieces of music in the series, again with the training facility main hall taking the prize. It's an extremely eerie and yet vaguely menacing piece of music. The sound effects are sparse and seem pretty standard. There's not much to write home about there. The eerie use of silence in certain areas is appreciated and builds tension. However, it's the wonderfully dark and ominous music that really holds up a lot of the atmosphere on its own for the majority of the game. That's 2 Harry Masons. Gore. Besides the cutscenes where all the leech transformations take place, there isn't much gore. Stamping on a zombie's head is as fun as ever, and the river of blood that seeps out of the wound is fairly entertaining. However, it all feels pretty tame for a Resident Evil game, so that's still 2 Harry Masons. Story. STARS Bravo team member Rebecca Chambers and escaped convict Billy Cohen must team up and escape the impending threat of the precursor to the T-virus, the progenitor virus made by James Marcus. After discovering the leech infestation brought about by a mysterious man, they crash the train they meet on near the Umbrella training facility. It's all pretty B-movie stuff like most other Resident Evil games. As will become a trademark in later in the series, it's rather dramatic in places, with cutscenes being pretty over the top in a fun way. Ultimately, it's an entertaining story, making the final score 3 out of 5 Harry Masons. Resident Evil Zero is probably one of the most disappointing in the series, unfortunately. While it offers a lot in terms of sound and graphics, the 2-player gimmick really ruins what could have made for a great experience. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, and if you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I didn't really get much out of this game, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching, and always go check out Bumps in the Middle of the Night. Peace.